Who am I when the world is not watching? Loneliness seeks and always finds. It does not only hunt for the misfits, nor the bitter, nor the sullen. It is in the bitter coffee in the morning, in the hot shower, and in the restless nights. It is a shadow that needs no light to haunt you and project itself. Loneliness delves into the past and fantasizes about the future. But it is not present. It is paralysis, numbness of the senses. It is an invitation to enter that empty but not dark corner that forces us to face the truth.
A voice with no body, just floating around, stumbling upon another curious story. That's me. But I'm not important, neither is he. In fact, no one else is, right? I'm trapped again in another room.
Sorry? Who are you?
I'm just a voice thrown into existence. Who are you? And why are you here?
I'm him, I mean. Not him, but, you know, a part of him.
A part of him. He is so lonely. I can see it. He barely gets out for some boring trips to the supermarket or a quick stroll around the block to smoke. Does he know that smoke is so bad for health? Vaping is so much better.
I'm not sure about that.
That's what a girl 2,000 kilometers away said last night.
I bet she was drunk. Anyway, he's not as lonely as he looks. I mean, he's been experiencing some weird feelings. Like sometimes he's by the window, half listening to people deciding which movie to watch in that cinema across from his place. And then a heavy sense of anguish and anxiety hits him.
I see. And of course he has to shake off that stillness somehow, right?
Yep.
Sean bienvenidos a un nuevo capítulo de Joyitas de la Televisión Chilena.
For the last 8 months, I've been experimenting with as many AI tools as possible every day. It's for this channel, but you could also call it an obsession. I've taken my whole list of tools and narrowed it down to...
Oh no, he is Googling it again.
Googling what? I know exactly what's going on with him.
Autophobia, what the hell?
Yeah, so according to psychology, autophobia is defined as an intense fear of being alone. Individuals grappling with autophobia often find themselves wrestling with intense anxiety, particularly when they're distanced from their support systems. It's been suggested that potential triggers for this phobia may include traumatic experiences from childhood or a history of anxiety or depression.
I see. That makes sense for him. I mean, he experiences these feelings when there's so much silence and no one around.
Could be. But autophobia isn't just about being alone in the moment. It's the fear of being alone. Surely a lot of people have experienced this too, maybe just not to that extent. I mean, being surrounded by people in a cafe, out with friends at a bar, or simply having lunch with family. Yet this sense of loneliness still haunts them.
Yeah, but what is this sense of loneliness? It seems too vague for me, and even for him, it's hard to describe.
Well, in her book, A Biography of Loneliness, The History of an Emotion, Alberti argues that loneliness is not a single emotion, but a cluster of different emotions, such as anger, resentment, sorrow, helplessness, and shame. She also claims that loneliness, both as a subject of study and an emotional experience, has undergone an exponential increase from the late 20th century to the beginning of the 21st century. According to her, this surge is intrinsically linked to the growing influence of secularism, neoliberalism, and the capitalist system.
Why does everything always have to do with the capitalist system? But you are right, I guess. I mean, we are immersed in a socio-economic system that prioritizes and encourages competition, privatization, and individuality at the expense of the collective. Even with all this technology we have, like video calls, texting, and even this virtual reality thing, we're feeling lonelier than ever.
Exactly. It's not a surprise that almost a quarter of the global population, which translates to over 1 billion people, experience feelings of loneliness. Wait, what is he doing now?
He is meditating. He has been into that kind of stuff lately. Focus, let's get back to what we were discussing. There's still a bunch of stuff I don't understand, like what's the real deal with loneliness and what does it hide behind? And also, why do some people run from it while others long for it?
You make a lot of questions, don't you? Wait, what's your name again?
It's not just me, it's what he is thinking in his mind too. And also, I don't have a name. Do you have a name?
I'm just existence. I thought you already knew. Anyway, I'll try my best to explain the real deal with loneliness and why that fella, and everyone else, should embrace it. 1. The human nature. So to understand the root of the fear of being alone, we must delve into philosophy, biology, and psychology.
Okay.
Thomas Hobbes, an English philosopher, describes the state of nature in his book Leviathan as a hypothetical scenario where individuals exist without any governing authority. In this state of nature, life is characterized as solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Hobbes argues that the inherent loneliness and inevitable conflict within this state drive individuals to seek an escape. To overcome the challenges posed by this daunting state of nature, Hobbes posits that individuals must enter into a social contract.
A social what?
Contract? Well, I mean, it's essentially like a collective effort to forge a more organized and cooperative society, mitigating the isolating aspects of individual existence.
I get it. So, like, in embracing this social contract thing or whatever, people are trying to shake off the natural worries that come with being alone, right? Like, they are looking to find comfort and a sense of security in that mix of common social rules and connections with others, right?
Yeah, kind of. But Hobbes argued that the motivation for humans to enter into this social contract was not natural, but rather artificial. He believed that human nature was selfish, isolated, and competitive, and that accepting social rules and living under a governing body was the only way to achieve harmony in society. This solitary view of humanity has been popular for a long time. However, I don't share this perspective because I think it's important to consider the biological aspect of human beings. After all, they are animals too.
I don't believe that humans are selfish by nature. I think that answer is too, simplistic.
Exactly. It's not too much to claim that the dread of being alone is a shared sentiment between humans and a bunch of other animals. I mean, from the brainy dolphins and hard-working ants, to the majestic elephants and those cute guinea pigs, and of course, their ancestors, the primates. In his book, Primates and Philosophers, primatologist Frans de Waal emphasizes the importance of social relationship in evolution, suggesting that the roots of our own social and emotional dynamic trace back to our primate ancestors. The tendency of certain gregarious animals to gather has a clear biological purpose. Survival.
Yeah, but again, that's just scratching the surface, you know? Humans aren't that kind of animals, and both they and I are fully immersed in decent social rules. So how can you explain this fear of being alone then?
I didn't know you were part of the human realm too. That's odd. I've met plenty of humans, and also plenty of voices like you, but they are always so detached from this plane of existence. Now that I think about it, I don't even know how I ended up here.
Well, I already told you. I'm kind of a part of him too. I can sense what he senses, live through his experiences, and there are other voices in him and in everyone else that can do the same too. Maybe it's just a matter of opening up a bit. Don't you think?
Please. I'm just trying to explain this to you through serious and knowledgeable sources. If that makes me closed-minded, well, then I am, I guess. Anyway, regarding your question, There are plenty of psychological theories exploring the fear of being alone. These theories range from attachment theory, which argues that the emotional bonds forged in childhood shape our capacity to endure loneliness in adulthood, to Freud's psychoanalytic perspective, which delves into the fear of loneliness within the broader context of psychological dynamics linked to the human need for connection and personality development. However, I will stick with existential psychotherapy because it resonates more with what I can see happening to him.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. He's been in therapy and all, but I feel like the problem here runs deeper.
Indeed, he is not only experiencing feelings of loneliness, but also a deep sense of isolation within. 2. Isolation and avoidance. So, the American psychiatrist Irvin Yalom, in his book...
Let me guess, existential psychotherapy, right?
In his book, he uses the word isolation as a general framework where feelings of loneliness can develop. He explains that there are 3 types of isolation: interpersonal, intrapersonal, and existential. Interpersonal isolation is often feeling as loneliness and involves a disconnection from others. This is the most basic and the most studied forms of isolation in the psychological perspective. This type of isolation can result from a lot of different factors, such as geographical separation, lack of social skills, or just different types of personality.
Oh, it's like that movie with Tom Hanks, you know?
Which movie?
Oh, you remember that one, right? When he's stuck on a desert island after a plane crash and there's that volleyball and everything. I totally forgot its name. Oh yeah, Wilson.
Yeah. So in the movie Castaway, Tom Hanks' character, which is actually called Chuck, experiences this interpersonal isolation as he is physically separated from other human beings, with the island itself becoming a representation of this isolation. His conversations with Wilson, the inanimate volleyball, is an example of how he copes with the lack of interpersonal relationships. Intrapersonal isolation, on the other hand, is akin to building mental barriers within oneself. It serves as a defense mechanism against traumatic experiences by disrupting their associative connections. This form of isolation, studied also by many other renowned psychologists, could also manifest as dissociation, where an individual detaches from aspects of themselves, denying their own desires, goals, and values. Instead, they adopt external duties as if these were their own desires, creating a discordance and distance between who they are and who they believe themselves to be.
I'm not following.
It's like your genuine desires takes a back seat, and suddenly you're living by these obligations that aren't even yours. For example, in the TV series Mr. Robot, Elliot grapples with a form of intrapersonal isolation manifested through dissociative identity disorder. Elliot constructs robust mental defenses in response to trauma, leading to a fracture in his sense of self. This dissociation is evident in his adoption of external personas, particularly Mr. Robot. He takes on duties such as hacking, activism, and protecting others as surrogate desires, driven by his alter ego. These external responsibilities serve as coping mechanisms, providing a sense of purpose and control amid his internal struggles and intrapersonal isolation.
I see now. I really liked that show. So, what you're saying is, intrapersonal isolation is like locking parts of yourself in different rooms to avoid the messy stuff, right? It's not just building walls. It's a whole mental escape room, isn't just about hiding from trauma. It's about creating a whole alternate reality. You end up living a life that's not really yours, just to dodge the tough stuff.
That's right, you're catching on. Now, existential isolation is a little more complicated to understand. Yalom described it as an unbridgeable gap between oneself and all other beings. We are not talking here about the everyday loneliness people might feel. It is about the fundamental and often unsettling aspect of the human existence. The realization that they are ultimately alone in their journey through life. It's the awareness that they are their own guide, or parent, as Yalom says. It is like being the author of your own story, and when you admit you're the one crafting your tale, it's like saying no one else is in charge, or protecting your existence. Creating yourself brings a deep feeling of being alone, like you're really noticing that the universe doesn't give a fuck about yourself. And as we talked before, while some gregarious animals might find some security and sense in herds, schools or colonies, humans, provided with self-awareness, remain exposed to this reality of existence.
Wow. I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, it's really dark and scary, you know, but I guess it makes sense. Now that I remember back in Chile, he used to have a friend who, whenever he cooked, would blast some loud music or play a YouTube video as background noise. He enjoyed cooking alone, you know, but never in silence because, as he put it, he wasn't a fan of the silence. Maybe his preference for music or background noise, even if he didn't pay much attention to it, was a way to avoid, you know, like introspection.
You are completely right. Mundane activities like cooking, brushing your teeth or sweeping the floor become mechanical rituals, pushing them into autopilot mode. Most of the time in these routines, people disconnect from their bodies and senses, opening the door to encounter their deepest thoughts. They become vulnerable to their own existence and the feeling of this existential isolation.
So, if I'm right, when his friend declared his aversion to the silence, what he was really saying was, I don't want to be alone with my thoughts and my existence, right?
Yeah. The loud music becomes his shield against the looming spectre of existential isolation.
Okay, but there's still something I don't understand, like, what if someone actually enjoy their alone time? What if someone is more of an introvert? I mean, I think he is an introvert, you know?
Fair question. Not everyone enjoys being in a big group or even with someone else. But let me be clear here. We are not just talking about the interpersonal isolation people might feel in the absence of small talk or parties. As we have seen with Yalom, we are exploring a deeper feeling that both introverts and extroverts have experienced, and they've all come up with different ways to deal with it. Extroverts like to be in company of others, going to parties, social events, even to hiking, whereas introverts like to be at home, feeling alive in their safe place, watching Netflix, playing video games, maybe playing also an instrument. But wait, even these seemingly solitary activities are just their shields, helping them avoid the dreaded silence they are all trying to dodge. This whole game of dodging the silence hints at something bigger. It's not just about avoiding isolation or feelings of loneliness, it's about steering clear of a deeper and darker fear. The fear of facing their own mortality. Death. 3. Darkness and faith.
You have another one.
Another what?
There's another spy. Never mind. So, what you're saying is that humans desperately try to avoid thinking about their mortality. They do it so much that they also steer clear of feeling lonely or being in silence, like the very place where these heavy thoughts come from, right?
That's correct. Yalom argues that the fear of death is the inherent and basic human fear. When we talked how humans and some animals huddled together out of fear of loneliness, it's because it underlies this fear of the darkness, of the uncertainty, which death represents, but death doesn't only represent that. It also means isolation.
That's, heavy. I mean, I've seen him confronting this silence lately, like setting aside the noise and external distractions to contemplate not only his own mortality, but also the mortality of those around him. I really think that in this contemplation of death, he has felt more isolated and more lonely than ever.
Yeah. I mean, despite the potential presence of family, friends, or partners when their time comes, the experience of death is deeply personal and non-transferable.
It's like sleeping, you know. Even if you sleep with someone else in the same bed, your experience of sleeping and even dreaming is yours and yours alone.
Yeah. In the words of Yalom, dying is the most lonely human experience. Death then transforms into the ultimate form of isolation.
Yeah, but what can they do when they face this silence? I mean, it's impossible not to feel this bad, right? Like, how did people in the past deal with this existential isolation and fear of death and stuff?
So when people confront this silence, as he has been doing, the feeling of loneliness emerges as a manifestation of this existential isolation. and intensifies the awareness of one's solitary journey through life and its end. While existential isolation has been a part of the human experience since the moment humans developed self-awareness, its intensification has aligned with the progress of secularism. The absence of God or a cosmic force to care for them, provide meaning to their existence, or promise an afterlife has heightened the feeling of isolation.
Okay, but you're not answering the question.
Hold on. Let me finish.
Okay, sorry.
In his book, Being and Nothingness, existentialist philosopher Sartre introduces the concept of bad faith. It refers to a form of self-deception or dishonesty that individuals engage in to evade the discomfort and responsibility that comes with full awareness of their freedom, choices, and self-creation of human existence. This can lead individuals to deny their own freedom by conforming to societal roles, adopting prescribed identities, and adhering to cultural norms without critical reflection. They create a sense of stability and routine that shields them from the existential uncertainty associated with their own mortality. This is how many humans seek refuge in different distractions or adopt belief systems, such as religion, that in some way alleviate the inherent anguish of absolute self-determination and death. Religion can be seen as a refuge that provides relief in these two fears. Take Christianity, for example, which provides a comforting belief that, with God as our creator and omnipresent guide, the profound sense of loneliness dissipates. In the Christian faith, believers find reassurance through the conviction that they can transcend the fear of death, because through the promise of resurrection, there is eternal life beyond physical death.
Yeah, but I don't really agree with you there. I mean, sure, religion can bring a sense of companionship and reassurance about death, but it's more than that. It adds some meaning to life and kind of encourages introspection, you know? Like he grew up in this Catholic family and went to a school with priests and all that. And in church, they used to tell them to close their eyes and get into the silence. It wasn't just about being alone with your thoughts. It was like connecting with God.
You're right. The notion of solitude in Christianity transcends the conventional understanding of mere isolation. Individuals are invited to engage in a personal dialogue with their God, and they seek meaning to their own lives. Solitude is presented as a sacred place and journey that carry the potential for profound transformation by facing one's own mortality. The cry of dereliction, one of the most famous passages from the Bible, it's a great example of this. According to the Gospels of Matthew and Mark, on the cross, and after being tortured, Jesus cries to the skies,
"My God, why hast thou forsaken me?"
This is Jesus' darkest hour. He confronts the imminent reality of his death, and despite having known in Gethsemane that this would be his destiny, he cannot help but feel the inherent fear that humans experience towards their ends. Moreover, that cry of anguish reflects abandonment and absolute loneliness, as if in that moment that father and guide had faded away, leaving the responsibility of his existence on his own shoulders. But this Christian narrative doesn't end here. While Jesus undergoes this existential anguish and ultimately accepts and surrenders to death, his resurrection, occurring 3 days later, not only signifies the triumph of life over death, but also serves as a symbol of the transformative power inherent in confronting one's existential isolation and mortality.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I mean, there are also plenty of other examples in the Bible, like when Jesus spent 40 days alone in the wilderness facing the devil's temptations. I mean, this period of solitude, which Christians also practice during Lent, prepares them for spiritual growth, you know? But it's not just that. Like facing temptation in the wilderness symbolizes the inner struggles that individuals confront during introspection.
But it's not just Christianity that has practices linked to solitude, and facing the fact that life doesn't last forever as transformative forces. In Judaism, the practice of teshuvah, translated as return or repentance, is a journey of introspection and a return to the original self. where past actions are evaluated to improve in the future. In Islam, muhasabah, or retrospection, reflects a similar approach. In Eastern traditions like Buddhism, meditative practice is fundamental for achieving spiritual transformation. By meditating and confronting the changing nature of existence, they dissolve ego illusions to attain enlightenment, a profound state of introspection. Also, in Hinduism, specifically in the practice of yoga, a similar approach is reflected in questioning the nature of reality and identity. These diverse traditions converge in their recognition of solitude and introspection as catalysts for transformative spiritual experiences, revealing a universal human quest for self-discovery and change. 5. Transformative power. Are you, all right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that really put everything in perspective, you know, like moments of introspection and facing this existential isolation are often aspects humans seek to escape, not fully understanding the transformative power they hold, you know. It's like trying to understand companionship without acknowledging loneliness, change without suffering, or life without death.
Yeah, I agree, my dear. I mean, being aware of one's existence means honestly exploring life's big questions and facing them with authenticity and modesty.
Yeah, but it's also like humans must allow themselves to confront all of these things we've been talking about, because by doing so, they realize that if death is the end of possibility, life is the constant flow of infinite possibilities, right?
Well, that's a topic for another time, perhaps.
But I also understand something else. And I think he does too. I know why you don't remember how you got here. It's because he created you just as he created me. I understand now. Loneliness is the first step towards creation, and creation is what gives meaning to their existence. It's something they cast into the world, allowing not only themselves to authentically experience it, but also others.
That's true. I mean, think about the incredible capacity of individuals who, during moments of loneliness and contemplating existence, have created timeless works of art, literature, and innovation. But the transformative power that loneliness has is not limited just to this kind of creation, though. It also touches every aspect of regular life. Just picture yourself, or your friends and family, finding the courage in moments of loneliness to make their daily lives more meaningful. You must delve into that existential darkness to emerge transformed, with a profound change in your priorities, perspectives, and values. Do you think he will be fine?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, this has been kind of therapeutic for him. Like you have given me and him a little insight into the essence of loneliness and shown us how to deal with it. I think this has allowed him to find meanings in words and experiences that have shaped him, and will continue to shape him until the invisible river carries him to the same destination all humans will eventually reach.
That's beautiful. Well, I think my mission here is now complete.
I see. Where are you going now?
I'm not sure yet. Maybe I'll be back to check on that girl I met last night, or maybe I'll travel beyond this earth so I can meet the sun. But for now, I'll be just with myself and my existence.